All right, it's the Houston High School Huddle. We are now into week 7 of the football season. I got Matt Stepp here from Dave Campbell's Texas High School Football. I'm the Wizard. Boy, I tell you what, I know you said you haven't been to Houston. You won't be there for a little while, but I know you catch games on your laptop while you're at other games. Man, let's just get right into it and start talking about week 6, because we talked about it being the game of the week last week at Tascasita and Summer Creek. And you watched a half of that, and it didn't hit the billing for a half. But once that second half started, all of a sudden Summer Creek with their thing of, okay, we can't keep you scoreless for a whole game, but we're damn sure going to try in the second half, and they almost did. Tell me your thoughts on that game and the resilience from the Bulldogs to come back and actually take the lead.
I feel like both teams can walk away with conflicting emotions and conflicting thoughts here. So for me, I'll tell you this, Ward. I watched the first half, and it was 35-7 at Tascasita. Big play after big play, and I'm like, man, I didn't walk away feeling like Summer Creek was that much worse than Tascasita. I just thought Summer Creek, they moved the ball well. They just couldn't convert, and missed a field goal, had a penalty, I think called back a touchdown, just moved the ball, but just kind of shot themselves in the foot. Whereas at Tascasita, just got big play after big play after big play. And I just said, well, this game's over. It's 35-7. Let me go watch another game. So I started watching a different game. And I'm at my game, tweeting out updates, and all of a sudden I saw an update from somebody at the game that said it was 35-24, and I was like, oh, it's gotten interesting all of a sudden. And so
time to get the clicker out.
And, come back over, and Summer Creek's doing their thing, and Blake Thomas is leading this crazy comeback. And then they take the lead, and I'm thinking, man, Tascasita's in trouble here. Summer Creek's got all the momentum. They've scored 32 in a row. It's about to be a huge comeback, and we're going to talk about how Summer Creek came back. And then Tascasita, Carde Mack leads them back down the field, and Torrey Blaylock scores a touchdown to win the game with 12 seconds left. A lot of resiliency from a Tascasita there. They could have folded up the tents and said, hey, we're done. Summer Creek came back. All the momentum in the world, but then no, they sacked up and championship type drive to go win the game. So I think both teams feel good. Summer Creek's got to feel good about coming back from a 35-7 deficit, but they also allowed themselves to get to a 35-7 deficit. So Tascasita is like, we got up 35-7. We dominated these guys for a half, and then Craig Stump's going to be like, hey guys, we let those guys. We almost had an epic choke job here, losing that game. So I think it's conflicting for both teams. I think both teams are really good, and I think the result. I'm glad the result was close, because I think the result indicates how close these two teams are to each other. And I think both teams are. I think both teams right now, just on the eye test, are better than they were last year.
Okay, and it's something both teams can build off. That thing continued 35-7, and it continued that way in the second half. Summer Creek would have some tape to look at, but Tascasita's like, okay, did we learn something? When they came back, it's like, okay, now we know that teams can come back on us. We got to make sure we put the full 48 minutes. We got to get this thing shut down right from the get-go and stop letting the teams come back on us. And it may be that whole thing where you expend so much energy coming all the way back, and then you finally get the lead, and then you reached over the mountain there, and then all of a sudden we've seen it so many times in pros and college. You end up with a letdown. Yeah. But what I wanted to talk about is the Tascasita's resume here. They have played the teams. They have played quality teams. They played teams on the road. We talked about Katy, Austin, Westlake. Now they've played Summer Creek at home. They've had that style of game where they let a team come back, still came up with a win. Can this be a season they can knock off North Shore? It's one of the 2 times that they'll play them. And for Tascasita fans, they're hoping that'll be the second time they play them. But can they beat them? Can they get them this year? Your thoughts?
I think so. I think they can. I mean, they were close last year. That playoff game was.
Maybe I should say, will they? Will they do it?
That's another question.
Can they?
That's another question.
That's the one I want.
Absolutely, they're right there. I mean, they can beat North Shore. There's no doubt they're talented enough to do it. But it's a very similar thing to Duncanville and DeSoto in the Metroplex, where no one would pick DeSoto to beat Duncanville until DeSoto actually did it.
Yeah,
they did it last year and got over the hump. And ironically enough, they're playing this week. But until a Tascasita does it, it's really hard. Do you wonder? Is there a mental block? This has been going on since 2018, I think. Now, none of these kids that are playing for Atascocita were on the team in 2018, but that they hear about it, and so it's constantly being talked about. They hear us talking about it. They hear everybody in the media talking about, oh, Atascocita can't beat North Shore. They haven't beaten North Shore in forever, et cetera, et cetera. So there's probably a little bit of a mental block there, and I think until they actually go out and do it, I think, you got to go with the champion's advantage there and take North Shore. So, but if you're saying it's Atascocita capable of it, absolutely. They're as talented as anyone in Texas. It's just a matter of can they put it together.
Yeah, I asked that because I personally feel like this is the year. I don't know which one of the two games they're going to win, but I feel like they're going to win one of those two. And man, I really, if it's for their sake, I hope it's the second one, because the first one you don't want to beat them, and then all of a sudden they have their baked Lays or whatever kind of chip they want on their shoulder and be like, okay, we'll get you.
Chip, right?
Yeah, exactly. We'll get you the second time around. Let's talk a little bit about 15-6A from last week. Tomball really struggled to get past Klein there. Maybe, unless I haven't seen the box score, did Klein score late touchdowns? And we talked about maybe Klein Collins getting their mojo back, but it didn't feel like they got it back against, and they got stomped out pretty good by Oak by 3 touchdowns. So, what do you make of this?
I think what it says to me is I think Klein Collins is probably on the outside looking in at this point. I mean, unless they run the table and get a little help, they're in some trouble now at this point. Now you've got the losses that have piled up, and that kind of thing. They're going to have to probably get a win or two that they're not expecting to get. Tomball's taking care of business. Now they still have the meat of their schedule left. I personally still feel like Klein Kane is the team to beat in the district. But I mean, yeah, it's probably a race. I think realistically, you've got Kane, Tomball, Magnolia, Oak, kind of all in the mix.
Oak's
there.
kind of put themselves in a decent position here because they beat Tomball.
They
beat Collins.
Yeah, I think even Tomball Memorial probably still kind of.
Or they beat Kane. Excuse me, not Tomball.
Yeah, Tomball Memorial and Collins are still kind of in on the fringes in the mix there. So, still, and even Klein I think could get back in it as well. So still a lot of football left to be played. There's been a lot of teams that have beaten each other. But if you're asking me today, October 7th, who I think the 4 playoff teams are now, I'd probably go Tomball, Kane, Tomball, Oak, and Magnolia as the 4.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. But there's those 2 teams that are just sitting there dangling. If Adrian Mitchell can ever get that thing going, they're going to have to pull off some upsets now. So it's going to have to happen.
They may have to beat Kane, to try to kind of get a win back. The problem is now if you're Collins, you don't want to be in a tiebreaker with Oak, that kind of thing, because they'll have head-to-head on you. So
yeah, exactly. All right, this is another game that I'm excited about. I know it's 2 weeks from now, but they're just on a collision course. Jordan beat the pants off of Cinco Ranch last week by 40. Katie's doing the Katie things. You're surprised by that, how badly they won that game, huh?
I'm not surprised Jordan won, but blowing Cinco out was very. I thought Cinco might win the game, and Cinco kind of wins games like this traditionally, but Jordan proved they got a different gear this year for sure.
That kind of, does that make this game even more exciting when it happens? I know we'll talk in depth next week, but it's on the horizon. It's the one that everybody's talking about in 19-6A. In the past couple of years, it was Katy versus Tompkins, but now it's this Katy Jordan game. It's time for Jordan to put themselves on they're on the map. Now they can just make their own map if they can beat Katy.
Yeah, there's always one game like this every year in Katy ISD where there's always this challenger that's emerging to dethrone Katy, and 99% of the time Katy just swats it out to half court. No challengers accepted. Except for Tompkins, that one year Tompkins got him. I think it was the year 2020, I think, when Katy won state. They didn't win their district. Tompkins beat them that year. So, right now, there's not a lot that's going to change my opinion on this game. I think Katy still is the team to beat in this district, and they're going to be the favorite over Jordan. They just have too much pedigree. Jordan's up and coming, and this is going to kind of be a learning experience for them in this kind of big game. So I'm really interested to see how they handle it when they get to that atmosphere. It's going to be a packed house. I don't know if the game is at Rhodes or at Legacy, but it's going to be a packed house. It's the biggest game of the year in Katy ISD. So There's going to be a lot on the line at this point. I mean, you got to think, barring some sort of major injury or something like that, Katie's going to be the favorite because they're the name brand and they're the perennial power.
Yeah, and there not much has changed in the coaches poll. I'm not even going to bring it up or bring up the whole graphic because it's just little movements here and there. I think Cy Woods jumped in and Cy Springs jumped out, but what I found interesting is consistently the coaches, except for one coach who does not believe in it, which is LeFavor's, consistently they're sticking Hightower over Ridgepoint. I was interested to see if that's something you agree with or not, or you think they're even Steven, but obviously Ridgepoint's won 9 of the last 10, or maybe it was 10 of the last 11 district titles, but it's consistent over there. The 11 coaches polled besides LeFavor's has Hightower over Ridgepoint, and I want to know what your opinion is on that.
Well, I don't expect LeFavor's to have his own team below Hightower. I mean,
I don't think so either.
Yeah,
that would be foolish.
I actually don't agree. Right now, I mean, in our I actually agree with our state rankings. I personally have Ridgepoint over Hightower.
Yeah.
I have not seen Hightower in person this year. I've seen Ridgepoint in person, but I've seen Hightower on tape, and they're very good. They're Cornelius Anthony's done a great job after some heavy losses this offseason to graduation and a couple of transfers to rebuild that thing and get Hightower back to district contention is very impressive. I just think Ridgepoint's got a little bit more ammunition. I just think they're a little bit better across the board, and I think that's my pick to win the district. And I think when they play, I think they're playing here soon. We'll talk about that game in depth, but I just think Ridgepoint's got a little more ammo, a little more firepower. So I don't agree. I would go Ridgepoint ahead of Hightower.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. It's same as you said with the North Shore and Tascasita and everything else. It's until it happens, you gotta happen.
Sometimes coaches polls are interesting because the coaches get so wrapped up in their own thing that sometimes they don't get a chance to look and really dig into the data and things like that maybe nerds like us have a chance to do because we're not coaching football teams.
Exactly. You know what? At some point during the summer, our guys said, "Hey, we should do a coaches poll for basketball too." I said, "Well, there's no way that's going to work out because they have 2 games during the week. They're only focusing on the games that are going on. They have no clue what's going on otherwise in any other district but their own. It's going to be about as skewed as you can get." So we went ahead and cut that loose, but.
Do a Wizzy media basketball poll.
There we go. Get your boy Ish out there and talk to some other people and figure out who's who over there. Talk to me about Galveston ball. We talk about them every week. We at the beginning of the year we said they're moving over into a new district that's not Houston ISD. They might make a playoff. They should make the playoffs. Now, are we talking district? Can they do district title? Because they really smacked around Port Arthur Memorial, and I was shocked at that big. The type of win it was, but you said the travel was going to give them the business to get to them, right?
I thought, and I didn't. And I'll transparency. I didn't think Galveston ball would beat Port Arthur by 31 points. I did not predict that at all. But I did think Galveston ball was going to win the game. I did think the travel was going to affect Port Arthur, and I thought that environment playing at Corville Stadium was going to be tough. It's a tough place to play. It's on the island. It's in the middle of a neighborhood. It's kind of cozy. It's a great place to watch a football game, and it's. Now that Galveston ball's rolling, that place is going to be a real hornet's nest for people to walk into. But I'm definitely surprised by the margin of victory. Very impressive. I mean, this is a Port Arthur team that took. We just talked about Hightower. Port Arthur took them to overtime a couple of weeks ago in non-district. So it shows you how good Port Arthur is. And they went to Galveston ball and got the pants pulled down. Jonah Williams obviously is that dude. I mean, I think he had a kickoff return for a touchdown and just did. I think the highlight he's running by Coach Sarkeesian and waves at him as he's scoring a touchdown, and just
that's awesome. I didn't see
he's
that.
Unbelievable. He's great, and they're more than just Jonah. You can't be that good in 5A Division I and just be a one-man team. They're putting together a great ball club. Still got work to do. That district's tough. Barbers Hill looms and Lufkin looms.
Right.
I don't know if that game. I'm going to look this up real quick.
Look it up while we're talking about it.
Looking this up on the fly. But I think the location of that Lufkin-Galveston ball game is going to be huge because that's your heaviest travel in the district. That's the longest trip. And it's week 11, and it's in Galveston. So that's a huge edge for Galveston ball.
That is a huge edge.
It's a long trip from Lufkin down to Galveston. So now, if there is a team in the district that's equipped to handle the travel, it is Lufkin. Because they're used to that kind of travel playing in the district before. So, it's a little ways away. But no, Galveston ball is very good. And I think you have to start talking about them in Region 3 as a real contender. I think in Region 3 you've got 4 or 5 teams that are kind of the cream of the crop. You got College Station, you got A&M Consolidated, you got Pflugerville, Weiss. I think Angleton. We talked about Port Arthur and Lufkin, and I think Ball is right in that mix now. So I think that's great for the Houston area. They have a true contender along to a couple of true contenders to go into Region 3 and 5A Division 1.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, heck, at the beginning of the season, I was thinking Lufkin or LaPorte and maybe a couple, 2-3 others, but I wasn't thinking Galveston Ball to make a run like this. We talked a lot about the Huntsville P&G game. Give me your thoughts on that, because we talked about how the loser of that game is looking at possibly playing South Oak Cliff in the second round, and that game came down to a doink. You always like games that come down to a doink, and the doink didn't go Huntsville's way.
Yeah, I think if you're Huntsville, you feel like you let one get away.
Yeah.
The difference in this game was Huntsville beat themselves. P&G made championship plays in the margins to win that football game. Let me spin a little tale for you about this game to kind of tell you how things went.
Okay.
It's 7-7 late second quarter. P&G throws an interception. Huntsville gets called for roughing the passer. Gives the ball back, wipes the interception off the board. P&G scores a touchdown, 14-7. Huntsville fumbles the ensuing kickoff. Huntsville's defense then stops P&G, and on third down gets called for a face mask. Extends the drive. P&G kicks a field goal, goes up 17-7 at the half. So Huntsville basically gives away 10 points.
10 points.
Right there in the second quarter. Then Huntsville in the second half dominates. They go up 21-17. They're feeling good. P&G scores a touchdown to make it 24-21 with 4 minutes left. Huntsville drives right back down the field. Gets down to the 20-yard line. The quarterback breaks a long run. They're down to the 20. 1st and 10 at the 20. Crowd's going crazy. All the momentum in the world. P&G's on their heels. Huntsville gets called for back-to-back false starts. So now you're 1st and 20. And then the very next play, Huntsville throws a pass, goes right through the receiver's hands. P&G picks it off.
Oh, wow.
Just those kind of things. Huntsville, that's championship teams don't do those kind of things. And Huntsville's still learning it, and they're still trying to figure it out. And they didn't make championship plays. P&G did, and that's the story of the ballgame, And so I think it's a learning experience for Huntsville. Huntsville's really, really good. Yeah. Really good. The problem is they've lost a key game. That's going to make their potential playoff path a whole lot tougher. And it's going to potentially limit how long their season goes. And they're a great team, but P&G's been there, done that. Huntsville hasn't, and you saw it kind of rear its ugly head in those key moments in the margins in that game.
Yeah, P&G's now in the catbird seat because they got past 2 of the bigger dogs with only 1 big dog left. And
how about that Montgomery? Speaking of that, boy, Montgomery, that was impressive.
I did not. I mean, it's a rivalry game to throw out the records out, but don't throw a freaking blowout on them. But that's exactly what happened. So it's pushed Lake Creek down to the 4th team to get in this thing. Before we start talking about games, quick shout out to Straight Jesuits Johnny Abear, man. I think it was like 21 carries, 28 carries, something like that. 420 yards, 5 touchdowns.
Man, I wish I would have known about this before. I would have had him in my Player of the Week vote. I didn't get the stats.
You didn't get the stats. Every touchdown he got was big-time 80-yard runs, stiff-arming people. It was wild highlights to see, and they kind of needed that against Ranch because they only beat them by 14, but they still got them. And I think we're set on Straight Jesuit being the number 2 seed there in 26A behind Fulshear. Maybe I'll even go out to the Fulshear game to see how that game's close, unless they may have already played. I haven't even checked the schedule there, but
I haven't played yet.
Let's head into the schedule for this week. We talked about it was a down week last week, but there is a big dog game in 14-6A. Spring Westfield versus Aldine Nimitz. Nimitz hasn't lost. They haven't played tremendous competition, but this could be their chance to show people, this game's at Planet Ford, but they have a chance to show people that they're for real here, even if they just keep it close and maybe lose. But I'd like to see them see if they can pull this thing off. Can they pull it off?
I think there's a better chance of it happening this year than it's been before. I think Westfield's certainly a little down this year. I think Nimitz is better than they have been. But, take Aldine School hasn't beaten Spring Westfield in a long, long time. It's been a while. So
no.
I do think this is going to be closer than people think. I still like Westfield, but I think this is kind of your measuring stick to determine is Nimitz for real. Like, are they just a good team in 14-6A and a team that might go 8-2, 9-1, and lose in the first round of the playoffs, or are they a team that can run the table, go 10-0, or even if they lose to Westfield but lose in a close game, I think you can leave. Hey, Nimitz is going to be a formidable first round playoff opponent. So, real measuring stick here for Nimitz. I think Westfield's going to win it, but it's going to be a lot closer than people think.
Yeah, because Nimitz still hanging around in the top 20 there with the coaches poll. I think they're right around 18, 17, and Spring Westfield is right around 15. So they're still hanging in there. Moving into 15-6A, this one actually is really becoming a little bit more meatier the way Klein Oak has been playing. They're 4-2, 3-1 with losses just to P&G and Magnolia. They took a district loss there, but they've already beaten Klein Kane. They've beaten Collins. Now they're heading up to Tomball. Their chances of giving them a game.
Very good. I mean, Micah Rhodes is unbelievable as a freshman. Oak is the thing about Oak now is they're starting to build some confidence. They're starting to get a little swagger about them, and the things that they've been working on are the kids are starting to buy in. When you haven't had success and you struggle, you start to lose the buy-in a little bit. But when you get things turned around with a group of kids that haven't been successful and now they're all of a sudden winning, they're bought in. They're going to run through a wall for you. They're going to, Coach Carpenter and his staff have done a great job. They've proven that they can play with anyone in Klein ISD. Now the next step is taking a true road trip. Tomball's not far from Klein, but
right.
it's a road trip. You got to get on the bus. You're going to an unfamiliar stadium. You're playing in a tough environment. That Tomball crowd. It's a true road game. How does Coach handle that true road atmosphere is going to be real big in this game. I go with the proven commodity in Tomball, but I'm really fascinated to see if Oak is ready to take that next step. Because if Oak wins this game, I think you can legitimately talk about them winning a district championship.
That's a district title, yeah.
Because you have head-to-head wins over Tomball and Kane.
Right.
You would almost have to put Oak in the driver's seat to win the district. Did anyone think that preseason?
Nobody, not anybody. Yeah. We weren't even talking about it being as a playoff team until week 3.
Shows the job that Brandon Carpenter and his guys have done over there. So yeah, Oak wins this game. They're in the driver's seat, which is crazy to say. That's why I love high school football. There's always stories like this every year.
You never know what's going to happen.
But you got to take care of business on the road against Tomball. Got to take care of Tomball.
That'll be tough. Yeah, we're definitely not marking that as a win quite yet. All right, Cy Springs is playing Langham Creek in 16-6A. Cy Springs, they took their first loss against Bridgeland. They didn't even bother scoring until pretty late in that game. It was a defensive struggle there, but you look at Langham Creek, they haven't, they can beat the teams they're supposed to. They haven't really competed against the ones they're not supposed to. This is probably labeled as one they're not supposed to, and if they lose this one, does that put their game with Cy Ranch later in the year as the possible 14 to get in the playoffs? Because Cy Woods is playing, they're playing undefeated ball right now themselves, but they haven't hit the meat yet.
Yeah, Langham Creek, they've lost, the first 2 district games, but this is kind of the one. Yeah, if they lose this one, at this point, you're looking at they're going to have to beat Cy Ranch to have any hope of getting into the playoffs. Because you lose this one, you're 0-3. So they're going to throw everything they have at Cy Springs. I think Springs, defensively, they had to be really happy with how they played last week against Bridgeland. I mean, Bridgeland only scored 3 points offensively the whole night. I think they had a pick 6 and a kickoff return and a safety. Yep. Pick 6, kickoff return, and safety were 15 of their 18 points.
Right.
The problem was Cy Springs couldn't do anything on offense. They had a late Paris Melvin touchdown. They struggled offensively. The offense.
I haven't seen much about them Richardson twins. Have they done much this year? I don't see them popping up anywhere. I'm hearing more about Melvin than I have those guys.
Yeah, I think part of it is because they have a young quarterback. They're playing a sophomore quarterback, and I think they're leaning heavily into the run game. So. We saw the sophomore kind of look like a sophomore last week against Bridgeland. Yeah. So I think Springs has got a little too much for Langham. I think Langham's going to keep it close. They may throw out a trick or two early in the game, try to throw everything they have at Springs. But because it's a huge game for Langham Creek, I just think Springs is a little bit too much. Yeah,
I agree with that one. I threw this game in here because we hadn't talked about 18-6A almost a whole year, except for how bad Lamar started the season. Somebody's got to be the 4th team. I think we know Heights, Lamar, and Bel Air are the first 3. I don't even you look at the teams in this district, I don't know who number 4 is. I mean, Wisdom hasn't scored a point in 4 games. They're not going to win this game, but I'm just interested in who you think is going to could be that 4th team to make the postseason out of this district.
even though they're 0-6, I'm going to go with Westside as the 4 seed.
Okay.
I mean, Westside played Bel Air last week and lost by 6, 13-7. So
okay.
Westside played some tough. I mean, Westside's 0-6, but you look at the teams. You know, they lost to Galveston Ball, they lost to George Ranch, they lost to Waller, they lost to Bel Air. So they played. They're kind of through the tough part of their schedule, and they're probably going to start to figure things out. Wisdom's adjusting to 6A, first year in 6A, brand new head coach. Bel Air should handle them, I think. I think Bel Air right now is your probably your locked in, most likely locked in as the 3 seed out of this district. So I think Bel Air handles Wisdom with relative ease.
Well, this next one I didn't write a graphic for, so we're just going to talk about it because I completely forgot. But Peto's playing Cinco Ranch, and yeah, exactly. Coach Hicks is not the guy you want to disrespect with no graphic. He get me in a headlock, I'm done.
Yeah, you're out of there. Yeah,
I might get a pop-up power bomb.
Coach Hicks is top 5 coaches in the state. I do not want to. I don't want to. Top 5 in the state that I want to have in my corner if I get into a fight. I want to have that guy on my side. Him and
Bill Elliott. Let's get him. Let's get him on your side.
Top 2 of the top ones for sure. So
there it is.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Good job. Yeah,
quick like that.
Coach Hicks. My guy, Coach Gonzalez at Rayburn, is another guy. He's another dude that's been. You know, I want that guy on my team if I'm throwing down.
Biggins. What do you think about this one?
You know, Pato, I think has really, you know, after a couple of tough years, you know, had some off the field issues that weren't anybody on staff's fault. That's currently there. It's, you know, somebody who's not there anymore. Kind of really threw that program into a little bit of disarray. They're 4-1. They've won 4 in a row. Really nice win over Morton Ranch. The last 2 weeks they've allowed a total of 8 points. So they put themselves right in the thick of that race in the playoffs. I think right now they're the 3rd place team. This is a big game. I think if you win this one, you kind of really establish yourself as a team that's going to get into the postseason. But Cinco's going to be ready to go. They got embarrassed last week by Jordan, losing 52-12. They're going to be coming for Pato. But I just think Pato's defense is just playing at another level right now. They're fast, they're physical, they're playing the style of ball that Coach Hicks wants to play. He's done a great job there, and I think Pato gets the win and really cements themselves as a postseason team.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Dejan Petaway play over there at Pato, you're missing something defensively. He definitely has the quickness and the speed over there. Moving on to 26A, you know, we talked about this. Fauchier's just kind of going through the motions. They're just going to get through this district schedule and figure out who they're going to play in the first round. But how about Richmond Foster? They've started off the season 2-0. They're possibly going to be – they're looking to be a playoff squad now. Talk to me about how they're playing. They're obviously probably not going to compete that much against Fauchier because Fauchier's just at another level. But will this game show you something and maybe push them into a postseason spot?
I think right now –
Go ahead.
I think right now Foster's in the – I have Foster in the playoffs, personally.
Demonstrate Jesuit? Who would the 4th team be?
I think,
one of the A-Leafs? Or did Rich Ranch in
I want to say – I think I have one of the A-Leafs in there, I want to say.
Gotcha.
Actually, I think I'll tell you, Lizzie. I got a playoff. I was working on playoff projections before.
There we go. You got any Thursday games? No? All right, sorry, too early.
A little early. Well, Wizzy needs Thursday games and triple headers. That's what he needs.
Exactly.
Double and triple headers.
So
A-Leaf Taylor. I got Taylor as the 4th place.
Okay. All right.
So Foster, they got to be really happy with how they've played. They've exceeded expectations. Most people had them at the bottom of the district. They've come up to 6A and done a good job. Fulshere's a different level. It's probably not going to be competitive. If it is competitive, it says a lot about Foster and how far they've come. But I just think Fulsher, coach could do these squads, got a little too much. But I do think Foster is going to get in the playoffs, which is a tremendous accomplishment.
Exactly, especially for first year up in 6A there, and people thought it was a downish year for them. Summer Creek, C. King, obviously these are the 2 teams that, you know, C. King you've had in the past podcasts that we've done as the 4th playoff team, but watch out for Humble, watch out for Kingwood. And now C. King's playing a team that's, you know, they're a little upset the way that game ended last week. Are they going to get their get-backs and make C. King suffer for it, or is Deion Sims going to break free and get him 180 yards and at least keep it close? Because they haven't stayed close with the other 2 dogs in this district.
Yeah,
I don't know if they can stay with this 3rd one.
I think Summer Creek sits on I think the top 3 in this district are on a different stratosphere than the rest of the district. So I think Summer Creek wins pretty comfortably. C. King, still in the mix of that fourth playoff spot, but I think they're going to have a fight on their hands with Humble and Kingwood. But I think Summer Creek and the three big dogs are just at a different level.
Yeah, they're definitely playing, which is why they're 1, 2, and 3 in the Houston area there. Dropping down to 5A because we have a couple of districts that have bye weeks, 24 and 21 6A. So we'll move down to non-5A Division 1. Barbers Hill now has to make that trip to Port Arthur Memorial after they made that trip to Galveston Ball and got embarrassed. What do you think about Barbers Hill going into Port Arthur?
Another tough road trip for Carl Absec squad. They had to go to Lufkin a couple of weeks ago. This week it's going into Port Arthur. Port Arthur's probably going to be pretty good and pissed off at the way they played. I do think Barbers Hill's passing game is going to give Port Arthur some trouble. The key matchup in this game is can Barbers Hill keep their quarterback upright? Port Arthur's got a really good defensive line. They'll get after you. If they're getting after Barbers Hill's quarterback, it's going to be a long night for the Eagles. I think Barbers Hill keeps it close, but I think I don't expect Port Arthur's played below their paper last week. That's not the typical Port Arthur team. I think they're going to be riled up and ready to go at home and looking to get that bad taste out of their mouth. So I'll go with Port Arthur at home. I still think Barbers Hill's a playoff team, right. But I think I go with Port Arthur at the house.
That may end up putting Barbers Hill as a fourth place playoff team, but
good.
Playoffs nonetheless.
The good thing, if you're Barbers Hill, just get into the playoffs because you'll be favored in the first round of the playoffs because you're matching up with the HISD district. I mean,
well, if they are going into the fourth seed, then they'd probably have to play the winner of this game, Galena Park and Waltrip. Galena Park's they've taken all the tougher ones. If they're, the tougher HISD teams, Waltrip's the one that could match up with them. Springwoods we talked about, but they've kind of faltered against a couple of teams in their district. Waltrip and Galena Park.
They handled Springwoods last week pretty easily. It was 44-14.
Yeah, they did, and Waltrip beat them pretty good too earlier in the year. So this one's probably the de facto 10-5A Division One title game. They're actually playing it at Galena Park. So, your thoughts on this one?
Should be a good ball game. Waltrip's a really good HISD team. First-year head coach there, Chris O'Neill, coming over from the Corpus Christi area. He used to be in Katy ISD as an assistant. Waltrip's consistently one of the better HISD teams. Galena Park, though, is just kind of their scheme, really evens the. They don't have the athletes that Waltrip's going to have, but they're going to be very physical up front. They're going to get after it, play a ball control offense with that option. And so I think at home, I'm going to go with Galena Park, but I think it's going to be a very close game. And I think Waltrip, what's going to happen later on is that Waltrip-Sterling game is going to be huge to determine who gets to host a first-round playoff game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it would be pretty interesting for Galena Park ISD to have possible two district champions if North Shore can get through the big dogs over there. I don't know when the last time they had that.
I have to have one play on Thursday night and one play on Friday night.
A Thursday game? Oh, well, I knew you'd give me a Thursday game early. Man.
If Galena Park and North Shore both are first place,
they'll throw Galena Park on Thursday, and we got Galena Park Barbers Hill. I'm going to go ahead and write that down. Where's my paper at?
There you go.
Who am I going to put at that game? I don't know.
Thursday night, 7 o'clock. There you go. Exactly. My playoff bracket's already ready.
Write that down.
You're counting on me, Liz.
I am. You're already giving me information early. I love it. All right, 11. We got a couple 11-5A Division One games. Neither one have the leader in it in Angleton, but we have teams that are fighting for postseason spots. Crosby and Kingwood Park. Mr. Yarborough's playing is running up a storm over Wesley over at Crosby. Excuse me. They're heading into Humble now on a Thursday night to take on Kingwood Park. Let's kind of give you a leg up on a playoff spot here, the winner of this one.
Yeah, I think you got to look at LaPorte and Angleton as the top two teams in this district. And I think this is a game that could be for third place. I think Crosby, huge win for them over Friendswood last week to kind of get things right. And it's a big win for Joe Willis and his coaching staff. It's a very young coaching staff there at Crosby. Coach Willis is having to kind of almost coach the coaches as well as coach the kids. They're getting better every week. They got a great player in Yarborough. Lean on him a lot. I think Kingwood Park at home is going to get the edge here. I think they're just a little more battle-tested and just a little bit deeper across the board talent-wise. So, but I think Crosby, that win over Friendswood, if Crosby can kind of take care of who they need to take care of in the rest of the district, I think Crosby's going to get that fourth playoff spot.
Yeah, that'd be nice for them because they certainly struggled a lot last 2 years, ever since I forget where their coaches went on somewhere else. But
Well, yeah, Jerry Prieto went to
Yeah,
Lake Worth,
Prieto.
and he went back
Yep.
he's back at Dayton. Yeah, so
Yeah,
they kind of had a
it's
coach
been moving
change
around a
there.
little bit. Laporte against Fort Bend, Kempner. Kempner's kind of lost a little of its shine that it had for the 3-0. They're starting to come back down. Although they only lost by a point, but they couldn't seem to score much against in their game last week when they lost to Porter 10-9. And we both don't think Porter's a playoff team. So this could be a long night for Kempner if they can't stop the running game. But it might be a time for Laporte to kind of throw down the gauntlet here and let people know that they're for real. They may have started off slow, but it's time to consider them as a district title contender.
I mean, last 2 weeks they beat Kingwood Park and they drilled. Who did
They drilled Kingwood Park. They beat Friendswood.
Yeah, they beat Friendswood in a close, and then drilled Kingwood Park last week. So Laporte's getting it together. You know, that non-district schedule is 3 losses are tough, but they played really good competition. So I think Laporte's going to handle Kempner. Kempner to get out to a nice start. That loss last week, I think, took a lot of starch out of them. You can't lose. I think they had hopes of sneaking into the playoffs, and a loss to Porter is just really damaging for their playoff hopes. And I just don't feel like – I think Laporte's going to come into Fort Bend with that wing T offense and take care of business.
Take them down. I probably agree. Now this one, I didn't know I was going to put this on in the beginning of the year, but you can't not put it on the schedule now because Montgomery's really, the Bears are really playing some good ball behind Reggie Williams. He's a tremendous dual threat over there at quarterback for the Bears, and Huntsville's coming off that tough loss. Man, tell me your thoughts on this one. Is Montgomery for real?
Yeah, then they entered the state rankings last week. Williams had a huge game, ran all over Lake Creek. For whatever reason, Montgomery just seems to have Lake Creek's number. They always give Lake Creek trouble. Even when they don't beat them, they give them a hard game. Really impressive stuff from Montgomery. I do worry a little bit about the letdown factor. That big emotional game against Lake Creek. Now you got to turn right back around. You got a really good Huntsville team that's probably angry and upset. They let one slip away against P&G. So I think Huntsville's going to come in and take care of business here and knock off Montgomery. If Montgomery wins this game, however, now we're looking at a Montgomery P&G showdown for the district championship. So if Huntsville loses this game, they're going to be in danger of not even having to host a first-round playoff game. And if you remember, this district has to go to East Texas for the first round of the playoffs. So Huntsville could be looking at a really long road trip in the first round of the playoffs if they lose this game. I think Huntsville wins it, but I think it's going to be close. Montgomery's impressed me.
And you were right. That was one heck of an atmosphere for that Motown showdown, as expected. The place was rocking. Hopefully they can bring it back up against for the Huntsville game as well. Moving over to 11-4A Division I, the big dogs in this district are Furr, Yates, and Worthing. Furr is just now starting to play some of the tougher teams in Houston ISD, Wheatley being one of them. Wheatley's probably our 4th team out of this district, but it's going to be a scramble for the district title here. Obviously, Furr wants it. Worthing had it last year. They're going to have a nice battle. Of course, they're playing it on a Saturday, I believe, which I won't be able to get to, although it is at noon when they do play it, so who knows. Maybe I'll get one of my freelancers to work on Saturday. Fat chance. Anyway, talk to me.
Pay him the big bucks, Wizzy. Pay him the big bucks.
Yeah, I'll pay you $4 more. No. Tell me about this district. I mean, obviously, first playing Wheatley on Friday, but tell me about the district and who you think of those top 3 teams may be able to get that title.
Well, you know, Furr is still in the mix for the district title. They're undefeated still. Yeah. They still got they still got to play Worthing. They still got to play Yates. But Furr's been pretty good this year. They have a nice win to open the year over Brazosport. They've won 3 in a row since dropping that game to Huffman Hargrave. Shutouts in 2 of their last 3 games. They're playing good ball. Wheatley is solid under Coach Cornelius McFarland. But I think Furr right now is kind of that locked in as that number 3 seed. But if they take care of business, there's still a chance for them to get that 1 seed. It's all in front of them as they get ready to close the year out. But I think Furr just a little bit more up front than Wheatley has, and I think they've been a little more consistent this year. And so I like Furr. Now another team to keep an eye on this district. Don't count North Forest out quite yet. Okay. North Forest is going to be a team to challenge for that 4 seed. You know they lost to Wheatley, but they lost to Wheatley already. But North Forest could be a team that could get in there and muck things up a little bit.
Sneak a win somewhere when they're not supposed to. All right. Interesting. All right, we're moving on down to 12 4A Division One. Their district play starts now, and all the teams are below 500, so we don't have a really good read on them yet. But these two could be the top two teams in this district. They're both 2 and 3 right now. Tell me what you think about Navasota against Needville.
Long road trip for Navasota. Got to go all the way across Houston down to Fort Bend County to take on Needville. A young but talented Needville squad. I think home field advantage is going to be really big in this game. Navasota's got a first-year head coach in Trey Allen, looking to kind of restore some of that magic that Navasota had in about 10, 15 years ago. They've kind of struggled recently. I think they're going to get back in the playoffs. But I think going down to Needville, tough place to play, tough environment. I like the Blue Jays in this one.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. This could be a spark to get them just going right through the district, because when they had Crawford who's kind of fallen off, Willow Ridge. This could be the de facto district title game.
This district's not super strong. Not a lot of depth. I think the top two teams from the 11-4A, the HISD district, have a shot at pulling some upsets in the first round.
Yeah, you did mention that, and we're having a story on Worthing High this weekend, and we talked to them about not only getting into the playoffs, but possibly getting an HISD win in the playoffs. And Coach Ellis is pretty excited about that, to talk about that. Let's talk about the district play starting here in 4A Division 2, and it's nothing better than starting district play with a good old-fashioned rivalry game. Will Eric Dickerson be at this game on the sidelines? Probably not. He probably put Sealy behind him for a little while. But Sealy against Belleville. Belleville may not have the.
Eric.
Come on, Eric. We want to see you on the sidelines. Let's take some pictures.
County would love to have you. Yeah.
Kiss some babies. This game's at Belleville. Talk to me about Sealy and Belleville and what you think. Are we throwing records out the window because of the rivalry situation?
Well, and I think Belleville. You got to look at who Belleville's played. I mean, their 3 losses are to Salina. They lost to Salina and Columbus, who are number 1 in the state in their respective classification. And he lose to Hitchcock, who's number 5 in 3A Division 1. So it's not like Belleville's losing to a bunch of chumps or anything. They're playing good people. I think that, I thought 2 weeks ago when Belleville lost to Columbus, they looked a lot better, especially offensively. D.D. Murray kind of started to get going a little bit. The offensive line started to play better. I think Belleville offensively is figuring some things out. Defense is still a concern. They got DJ Sanders, but the rest of the defense is just not playing like they played last year. Sealy's putting up points. They're averaging 47 points a game. They're 1 point away from being undefeated. They lose to Bay City by a point. They blow out Needville 2 weeks ago, 55-17. Kane Killo had 6 touchdowns, 3 on the ground, 3 passing. I think Sealy is playing very well in year 2 under Coach Clint Finley, figuring a lot of things out, but there's levels, and I think Belleville's still a level above them. I think you're going to start seeing Belleville kind of get going and start to peak as we get ready for the playoffs.
Well, we're giving, since the schedule is a little bit rusty, we're giving this one game of the week, so we'll have extensive highlights of this bad boy.
It's going to be a great atmosphere. There's going to be that's a big rivalry. It's going to be a fun atmosphere. They call Belleville's field, right?
What's that?
They call it the pasture of pain.
The pasture of pain. I like that. All right. I have to remember that. We may see that again this weekend.
There you go.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's talk about where Matt is stepping out to this week. Talk to me.
It's a little bit of a lighter week for me, Wizzy, because it's Thanksgiving next week in Canada. So I'm heading back to my home in Toronto on Saturday to get ready to celebrate Thanksgiving and eat some good cooking from my wife. So excited about that. But I will be.
I swear to God, I gotta marry a Canadian. If I'm getting 2 Thanksgiving meals, I have to. Does your wife have any friends? I got to do that because. If there's another place that has it on another day, I'll pull a Mormon thing and marry 2 women. I don't care. I want 3 Thanksgivings.
I didn't get this figure for nothing, Lizzie. Just saying. So Thursday night I will be in Palestine, out there in East Texas, as I'm going to watch Crockett take on Palestine Westwood. Okay. Westwood has one of the top 27 quarterbacks in the country, KV Bryant, who's also a really, really good basketball player. Averages about 28 points a game as a freshman last year.
Oh, wow.
It's ridiculous. And then they have a running back committed to TCU. So Palestine Westwood, top 10 team in 3A Division I. Should be a lot of fun. And then Friday night, I will be in Cleburne which is south of Fort Worth. Cleburne is hosting Tyler High School, the Tyler Lions, formerly John Tyler, now just called Tyler.
Right.
Cleburne is hosting them in a district ball game. It's a long way
call
for
their
Tyler
place
to travel.
They call their place
Rock.
the Rock. Rock. There it is.
Yeah, Cleburne has one of those old WPA stadiums. It's a stone stadium. If you're wanting to know what, just Google Cleburne Football Stadium and it'll pop up. It's a cool place. So that's where I'll be Friday night, and then Saturday at 5 o'clock in the morning I'll be on a plane to Toronto to celebrate Thanksgiving. So we'll do the show next week. I won't be in my kitchen in Fort Worth. I will be in my kitchen in Toronto.
Nice. I like it.
An international version of Houston.
We're going international, and the week after that he will be in Argentina to do it. Okay, maybe not.
Hanging out with Messi.
Yeah, exactly. He's getting messy with Messi. What is there anything different about a Thanksgiving meal in Canada than in the States? Are we doing turkey stuff and all that stuff? Or are we doing something different? Same
pretty
stuff.
Much the same foods. Yeah, you know, my wife is it's the same stuff. My wife's originally from South Africa, so she'll throw some a couple of South African style dishes in there, but mostly it's turkey, stuffing, veggies, rolls, lots of desserts, all that good stuff.
I'm definitely I got to find a Canadian. I'm heading up to Edmonton or something like that, Vancouver, finding somebody. So I got to get 2 meals. I don't care much for you as a person, but since we're celebrating 2 Thanksgivings, let's get married.
You're okay with me. Yeah, you're
exactly.
Okay with me. So Monday is Thanksgiving up there next month.
I got you. All right, brother. I appreciate you joining us, man, and we will talk week 8 next week.
We'll do it.